The whole meeting is now called the order. We have two items on the agenda. We're going to start with the comprehensive plan. Chip?
Okay, great. Thank you, Council President Prince and council members. Chip Vincent from Community and Economic Development. And thank you for the opportunity to present to you the latest draft of the update to the comprehensive plan for the city of Renton. In front of you, you should all have a brand new, off the press, still warm, polished document to use as reference as we're going through the presentation here tonight. I'll just start with saying this has been, I shouldn't use the word Herculean effort, but it feels like it for many of us who've been working on this for the last 2.5 years. And I'd like to recognize Paul Hintz, who's an associate planner who's been working on this for the last year plus, and Elizabeth Higgins, senior planner, who's been working on this for the last couple years almost now. And then finally, Angie Mathias, who's been the project manager for the comprehensive plan update. Angie's going to do the bulk of the presentation here tonight. I just wanted to provide the introduction and provide the framework for the discussion and how this plan has been put together. The comprehensive plan it's a policy document that really provides the blueprint for growth for the next 20 years, for growth and development, how and where new growth is going to occur. As part of the update to the comprehensive plan, we as staff really saw, working with the mayor's office, the opportunity to really refine the comprehensive plan to be a much more user-friendly, less wordy, simplified document that really conveyed the vision of the city for growth in a much more articulate way than we had historically. This shows the cover of the current comprehensive plan that's in place today. That was last updated in 2004. This document is a 352-page document. Really, a tough read to get through all 352 pages. I'm going to give you an example of one of the elements in the comprehensive plan, and this is an example of the Parks and Recreation, Open Space and Trails element of the current comprehensive plan. It's a 12-page document. Starts out with what the goal is, then goes page after page of narrative and policies. And I did the first 4 pages, but you get a sense. There's no illustrations, no graphics to convey the information, no matrices, just a lot of narrative and text describing the policies. This element in the parks, natural space, and natural areas and open space is actually 12 pages long, as I said. In contrast, the proposed comprehensive plan that is in front of you today has gone from 352 pages to just 99 pages. And there's a copy of the new cover that's being proposed for the comprehensive plan in front of you. And I wanted to show you as an example by contrast. I showed you the previous existing parks element, and this is the proposed one. And again, the differences are key here, and we use this as a template to better convey the information. First off, we have a banner with an icon for each of the elements across the top. We also have very clearly established right under the banner what the goal is of that element of the comprehensive plan. We also have a subtitle that's boxed out that gives the reader a better sense of what's going to be described and discussed as part of the policies. And then we have a discussion before you even get into the policies, just providing what the current information is on this topic. So really provides a good introduction before just jumping right into the policies. I said the previous parks and open space element was 12 pages. This one is 2 pages. That's it. And using lots of pictures, again, trying to convey the information. One of the most effective ways that we found to reduce the number of pages and the amount of narrative is down here. We adopted where we had existing plans in place, whether it was a parks plan, a non-motorized transportation plan, a utilities plan. We treated this element of the comprehensive plan as an executive summary. But we adopted these existing plans that are in place as a cross-reference. Also adopted in the comprehensive plan, what's being proposed is the business plan. So when you open up your plan, the first thing you're going to see is a copy of the city's business plan. This is an attempt to align the 6-year business plan, those things that we want to do in the next 6 years, with our 20-year vision, and try to bring those two documents into alignment. And it begins with incorporating them with each other. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, there it is. Also, I wanted to share with you that this comprehensive plan update is not done in a vacuum. It really begins with the State Growth Management Act that required that this update be done this year. Also, we not only have to be consistent with the Growth Management Act, but with our regional planning as expressed by Vision 2040, the regional land use plan, and Transportation 2040, the regional transportation plan. We have council members that sit on different boards and bodies, as well as the mayor at the Puget Sound Regional Council. They're the group that oversees the adoption and the updates to these plans. But also for us in King County, we have the King County Countywide Planning Policies. For the Growth Management Planning Board for King County oversees the development of those as well. So we have a lot of documents that we have to be looking at in terms of having consistency with our own Renton City Comprehensive Plan. Once the plan's established, that then in turn provides for us the standard for sub-area plans as well as our own development regulations that follow. And those mandatory elements, Angie's going to go through those, so I'm not going to spend any time here, but probably one of the most important things that comes out of the King County Countywide Planning Policies, it's really the driver for much of the work that's in the comprehensive plan is planning for, when I say we're planning for growth, we have a very specific requirement in terms of by the year 2035, our 20-year plan, we're to have created a plan that accommodates 14,050 new households within the city and almost 29,000 new jobs within the city. That's a big task and challenge. So this plan really provides that blueprint for how we're going to accommodate those new households and those new jobs within the city. And with that, I am going to stop right there and hand it over to Angie.
Thank you, Chip. So you all probably remember Erica Conkling, and she was actually the person that started out as the project manager on this and developed the calendar and how things were going to proceed. And that was a long time ago, 2.5 years ago. And you can see we started in 2013. And what we chose to do was to sort of break things up and just get it into manageable chunks. And so in 2013, we did work on the vision, the parks element, the economic development element, utilities, and land use, and also did a community needs assessment. And we did scoping, we had open houses for the public on that, and we did a public hearing. And then we met with our planning and development committee, and they signed a report and said, okay, these things are on hold. In 2014, we did the housing and human services element, capital facilities and community planning element, and then put those things on hold. Through 2015, we've been working on transportation and land use, and we also updated our critical areas regulations. And now we're here asking you to bring all of these things together over the last 2.5 years and adopt them as one document as our new comprehensive plan. I alluded to the outreach. We had 4 public open houses or workshops. We maintained a specific website that had its own special address of rentonwa.gov plan update. We had an online survey. We did showings on Channel 21, notifying people of the open houses as well as notifying them about the comprehensive plan update. We had 4 public hearings. We met with Committee of the Whole. We met with countless meetings with our Planning Commission and our Planning and Development Committee. And we also maintained an email to interested parties list where we emailed them, notifying them of things that were coming up and what was going on. The input that we received a lot of input from the public. City staff worked very, very hard on all of this. We had some interdepartmental teams for the other elements that are not necessarily part of our department's primary function. Puget Sound Regional Council has reviewed a draft and provided comments, the same as Department of Commerce. And there's been other agencies along the way, such as Puget Sound Energy or the Housing Consortium, that have reviewed draft elements and provided comments. The Planning Commission worked very, very hard on this, and they contributed a lot of really great points and amendments that were made based on their comments. And then, of course, Council, as you received briefings during your annual retreat and all of that, that have really shaped and formed this end product of our proposed comprehensive plan. So just briefly, I'll touch on all of these elements and just give you a high-level synopsis of what's embodied within those. Starting with the vision is that Renton is a place that promotes economic vitality, environmental quality, social equity, and resiliency. That it's healthy and safe, has cohesive, well-established neighborhoods, and a variety of housing. Has a full spectrum of employment opportunities for all economic segments, and promotes access for all to the natural environment, including a healthy river, a clean lake, and abundant trees. So that really sets the table for what we picture for Renton by 2035 or in 2035. The utilities element, we are ensuring that the facilities will be provided and maintained. We are aligning with the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. We're encouraging low-impact development, and then also coordinating with regional solid waste planning and non-city water and sewer providers that operate within Renton. With capital facilities element, the policies state that we should provide high-quality facilities and services, be consistent with our land use element, and have levels of service that meet expectations, and then we identify sufficient financing. The shoreline element, we didn't make any changes to it. We just adopted it but incorporated it in. That work was done in 2011 and was adopted with Ordinance 5633, and it just identifies the goals and policies of the protection of our shorelines of the state, and we just brought that in and reformatted it so that it matches the formatting. Community planning element the purpose is to engage the public in shaping the future of their community, and the goal is to improve livability, preserve unique identities, foster and enhance community character, and prioritize provision of services and infrastructure. For the housing and human services element, the element seeks to meet the housing needs of all economic and demographic groups within Renton, support social services that allow individuals to meet their basic physical, economic, and social needs, and then that community needs assessment that we did really gave us the information that we needed to really have a robust housing and human services element. And the parks element, it calls really, as Chip said, just highlights what was already done with the work of the Parks, Recreation, and Natural Resources Plan. But it calls to support and encourage opportunity to connect to and participate in a healthy and active lifestyle, balance access to natural areas with the protection and conservation of them, offer indoor and outdoor park facilities that encourage healthy and active lifestyles, and then finally build community, foster volunteerism, and create long-term partnerships with recreation programming. The economic development element seeks to make Renton the progressive, opportunity-rich city in the region by encouraging public and private collaboration to ensure long-term economic health, fostering a healthy economy that provides jobs and opportunity and helps pay for vital public services, and ensure development that's high quality to sustain a high standard of living for Renton. The transportation element and the land use element are some of the longer elements within the comprehensive plan, and they both really feed into each other. You've received information in the past about those other elements, but you have not so much on the transportation and land use, so I have a few more slides on those. But the transportation element, the primary objective is to coordinate transportation investments with the pace of growth and to ensure the system is efficient, balanced, and multimodal, meaning that it accommodates pedestrians and bikes and cars all on the same roadways, and providing equal opportunity for those different systems. Continue to develop a system that supports, stimulates, and enhances the safe, efficient, and reliable movement of people, vehicles, and goods. And then finally, to maintain and preserve and extend the life and the utility of transportation investments. And really from our Planning Commission, we heard a lot about wanting to make sure that we prioritize improving the efficiency of our existing infrastructure and how important to them that really is, and that they really want that to be a high priority. So there's a lot of new things within our transportation element. We're shifting to establishing a standard of citywide person trips. So how many, like a vehicle carries 1.3 people. And so then a bus might carry 65 people. All that filters up, and we will establish a pool of how many citywide person trips there are. Then we'll measure the impacts that development has citywide, also by community planning areas, and we can cluster those and see if any area is being uniquely impacted where maybe their person trips are being drawn down more, and then site specific. We're also proposing to shift to a level of service that is multimodal, balancing and measuring for pedestrians and bicyclists. And then establishing a level of service D. We currently have a time travel model, and so we're proposing to shift to something that makes a little more sense. A, B, C, D, E. Some areas we're proposing to be level of service E mitigated. That's a consistent standard for state highways, and so we're just extending that, and then recommending that that be also included for our really high, well-traveled areas that are similar to a regional system, but are very urbanized, so like Rainier Avenue South and Grady Way. It also adopts a project list, and that project list now includes non-motorized projects that we would like to see developed, and then cost and revenue estimates for what all of those projects cost and what the revenues would be based on our current and projected income or revenue driving. So more on land use. It really does guide future growth and development and ensure that Renton flourishes. That's the general objective. We want to ensure that the use of land is efficient, that we protect the natural environment and ensure that we have natural resources for the future, promote a safe, healthy, and attractive community, and strengthen and support our employment base with how we use our land. We recognize that high-density areas support transit use, maximize land use efficiency, and maximize public infrastructure and service investments, the investments that we're already making. And for how we grow towards the future, we see the city center as the hub of commerce, with a revitalized downtown, and a place that's dense with households and jobs. We also have other high-density mixed-use areas in the Sunset Revitalization Area, and then other areas that we decide are appropriate. Outside of those areas, outside those high-density areas, we see a range of single-family housing at different densities. So as part of this work, we consolidated our land use designations, and I have maps that illustrate that. And then we also proposed a number of rezones, and those rezones are in response to resident requests, some Burke analysis. Burke is a consultant that we have that did some analysis that said that, hey, some of this zoning is not quite appropriate for the density that you have that is already existing, and you might want to consider something like an R6 zone. And so we have adopted an R6 zone, but we don't currently have any R6 zone in the city, no place that's zoned R6. So as part of that, we're proposing that some areas that are currently zoned R8 be rezoned to R6, consistent with how their current development is. We also had, in response to an interim zoning that we adopted, and then a moratorium. And so through all of that, the rezones that we're recommending seek to better align infill development with existing development, improve the correlation between critical areas and the range of potential uses or density, make sure that that really makes sense, and then to match existing development. There's places where, for some reason, there's an office building that extends over 2 parcels, but one parcel is zoned residential multifamily, and the other is commercial office. So we're just proposing to make that whole land use be one consistent zone. So in the 2004 comp plan has 12 land use designations in this very colorful map with lots of different colors on it. We're proposing for our update just 6 land use designations, and something that's a lot more simple and a lot easier to understand. The red and the orange are areas of more concentrated density, more uses that are commercial, yellow being more of our single-family residential areas, and then green being more of our also low-density single-family residential areas and some of our conservation areas. So this is a map that indicates all of the potential or the proposed rezones that we've recommended and that have been gone through the full process of having a public hearing and the Planning Commission recommendation and review. And they affirm and recommend the rezones move forward as proposed. And you can see that they're, scattered throughout the entire city, in the north, the east, and the south, and the Benson community, as well as some in our city center area. There's some associated amendments that we're suggesting be made to our Title IV development regulations. First is to allow attached dwellings in our commercial office zone or CO zone, provided we want to require that they be located within a quarter mile of transit, and that's really solid transit. So for instance, the Sounder light rail station, or the Sounder station that abuts to Tukwila. Require that it be mixed use if it does occur, that it be a minimum of 75 dwelling units per acre and 8 stories in height, and that they provide structured parking. So we're talking about something that's really substantial and significant, and that would hopefully create some nice symbiotic use within our commercial office zone where we have right now just currently office use primarily, not residential. Also, to establish standards for townhome development in our residential multifamily zone. That came directly from our most recent open house. We had some folks come and they were really worried about being rezoned because we had a moratorium on development in our residential multifamily zone. And in talking with us, we learned that, in fact, what they really want to do is just townhome development, that it's really challenging to do in our RMF zone. And so if we can fix that, then things are great. And so that's a really easy thing for us to do and something that we're supportive of and just didn't quite realize that that was the case. And so amendments to make that possible. Also to repeal interim zoning for our R8 zone, South Renton, and then there's a specific property near Carr Road. So with those rezones that we're proposing, all of the need for that interim zoning goes away. And so we're recommending that that interim zoning be repealed. We did a lot of work in our RMF zone, and we're recommending that that moratorium on development in our residential multifamily zone be repealed. However, we are recommending that in the commercial arterial zone, that it be extended and that moratorium continue unless it's in the city center. And that's already established within that moratorium, but we just want to be really clear that development in our commercial arterial zone in our city center does not have a moratorium on it currently, and we're not suggesting that that change. So the comprehensive plan has had a lot of review. We've done our SEPA, our State Environmental Protection Act review and analysis of it to make sure that it passes that legal muster. Puget Sound Regional Council has reviewed it, and we will submit a final formal checklist to them, and they will actually certify our transportation element. And that's a very important thing for us for securing grants and things. The Department of Commerce will also certify it, and not our transportation element, but our comprehensive plan, and tell us that we've done everything well with providing all of the information and meeting the requirements that they have. Our Planning Commission spent a lot of time and reviewed it, and they recommend adoption. All of our elements are in conformance with the Growth Management Act, Vision 2040, and the King County-wide planning policies, as Chip illustrated that we're required to do all of these things. There is some ongoing work that we will be doing. We would like to initiate a work program to review density allowed in our CA zone to help resolve the need for the extension of that moratorium. In particular, what's appropriate for minor and collector arterials? What's the right density allowed for those areas? The CA zone allows 60 dwelling units per acre, and maybe that's just a little too much for some of our lighter use streets. And then really making sure that we have the right design requirements for the CA zone for that mixed-use multifamily. So making sure that it really, the end product really meets what we need it to be and looks like what we want it to look like, that it's high quality. Also, we'll continue the process of developing there's work ongoing with our transportation element, specifically to establish that trip bank that we sort of alluded to, that will have all these person trips in it, and what we will adopt or what we'll propose here in the not too distant future will be a very fancy system that will also be very simple, where somebody can come in, they'll do all the work, and they'll say, this is the land use that we're proposing, we want to do this nice office building. They go and they click and they say this and this how many square feet, and then they bring in their form and it says this is how many trips I'm taking out of the trip bank, and here's my associated fees that go along with that. Also, we will work to establish a bicycle pedestrian impact fee and what that fee would be, and how we can go ahead and implement that. And with that, the administration recommends that the 2015 comprehensive plan update be advanced for adoption. And that's all I have, and hopefully we have some time for some questions.
So, before I offer questions, this looks fantastic. I think you guys have done an excellent job on this. And I remember chairing planning development in 2013 when we first started talking about this. And it looks better than I imagined it would look even then. So you guys did a great job on this.
Thank you.
Any questions from council?
Yes.
Councilman Person and Palmer.
With the adoption of this and the zoning laws, does this take care of the R6 issues that
Yes.
we were having, and
Yeah.
so that some of the people that were having these problems, that we'll be able to do the right adjustments so that we can take care of them?
That's right.
Okay.
Councilman Palmer.
shoreline management element.
Yeah.
I see the very last page, it says documents incorporated by reference, table of public access objectives by REACH, October 2011, and then shoreline master program ordinance, no date.
Oh,
I think that would be helpful
yes,
to the public,
yes, thank you for.
either an ordinance number and/or a date. Is that being too picky?
No,
Both would be
no,
perfect.
no,
And
we're,
then-
we're on it.
The same thing at the very last page, Appendix D. I don't see, it says incorporated documents. Maybe I missed it, I went through, but I don't see that it says the shoreline management in that list.
Okay,
Because I went there to look for the date.
okay. Thank you, Councilmember Palmer, and we are on that.
And I know there's so many little details, those are really little things. I love the cover. I just think that's really innovative, and the whole look of it from 300 and some pages to under 100 is a miracle, having worked on it for 2 years. I mean, it should be very, very useful and helpful. And thank you, staff. I know how hard you've worked for a long, long time. And every department has had to be involved in this. And so kudos to everybody. I'm very impressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you said that you thought that it would be a tinkering and it ended up being an overhaul.
Yeah,
And this is definitely an overhaul.
yeah.
It's a redo.
Yes. Any other questions from council?
When we started, I was hoping it would be an update, but quickly, the plans of a minor update went out the door, and we really saw this as an opportunity to really articulate the vision in a way that the elected officials, the staff, and the public could better understand what the policy direction and the blueprint for growth was for the city.
And I just want to say, it wouldn't have been like this if you didn't get started way earlier than
Yeah.
what you
Yeah,
could have. And I bet
absolutely.
other jurisdictions are playing catch-up right now, where we've got something really solid and that the city can be proud of.
Yeah,
Thank
That's-
you.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Just one other, more a comment and a question is, at the Eastside Transportation Partnership on Friday, Kathy Lambert from King County Council said that she had found the original documents for the GMA and is having them printed up if anybody is interested, so that they have interpretation. I think she has an ulterior motive to try and get more funds for county roads in the rural area, but
For her.
just as a point of reference if you hadn't heard
know,
that.
That's good.
Yeah. Any comments from our chief administrator officer aside? I would love to see a copy of those documents if they're available.
Like you don't have enough to do.
No, it'd be, Jay knows I'm way too nostalgic about some of this stuff, and it'd be fun to see if she comes up with those.
Well, thank you, guys.
Very much.
All right, next up, we have WashDOT Turnback of State Route 900 and State Route 515. See if you guys can top that.
Okay, I'll just be a second setting this up. Here we go. Council President Prince and members of the Committee of the Whole, I'm Greg Zimmerman. I'm the Administrator of Renton's Public Works Department, and I'm here to talk to you about a proposal to request the state to turn back portions of State Route 900 and State Route 515 to the city of Renton. There's actually a time element involved in this. There's a process that you need to go through where a city that wishes to do this submits a letter to the Department of Transportation, who endorses it and then sends a request to the State Transportation Commission, who makes a decision toward the end of the year. And then their decision usually becomes effective in the beginning of the following year. So we've been told that if we want to go forward with this year, we need to submit a letter this month, actually. So I just wanted to let you know that that's the time frame we're working with, which is not we don't have to rush anything, but it's just, if we wanted to do it this year, that letter submittal becomes important. Why do we want to do this? What's the motivation for asking the state to turn back these two state highways in the city to Renton? We've got several motivations, actually. The city will be in control of the streets if that happens. Right now, since they're state highways, the state, anything that the city wants to do, for example, if we would want to convert South 2nd and South 3rd Street from one-way streets to two-way streets, would require state approval. Usually, when the state, when you ask to make a very substantial change like that, there's a lot of studies that are involved, there's a lot of consultant work you end up doing, and it can take many months, in some cases even many years, and you can end up spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in consultant studies, and the final answer, the final call may not be what you asked for, because it's under the jurisdiction and control of the state. So if we were to take over these portions of these two state routes, we would be able to do basically what the policymakers wish to do. In the future, if you wish to convert the streets from one-way streets to two-way streets, it would not require authorization or approval from any other jurisdiction or agency. It could be done at the city level. That would include traffic calming features and speed limits. Just about any feature of how those streets function would be under the control of the city policymakers. Our plans that we've done for the downtown business district calls for turning the downtown business district into a destination area. In order to do that, we know that there are certain changes that we have to make for the streets. The current street pattern serves a very nice bypass route for drivers whose origin and destination are not within the city of Renton. And we do hear that from the businesses that people have a hard time finding their businesses or getting to their businesses because of the one-way street network. And we have fairly fast traffic. It's not pedestrian friendly. So if we want to make any of those type of changes, we have to have a toolbox to make changes to the street grid and the street system. And certainly there's an advantage to having those decisions at your level rather than having to request it at the state's level. So those are some of the incentives that we have. At the end of my presentation, we're going to ask you to request that you provide authorization for the mayor to sign a letter requesting the Department of Transportation to turn back portions of State Route 900 and State Route 515 as shown in the map that I'm going to, that's in my next slide. That action does not bind the city to any changes. If the streets turn over to the city, all that does is give you the opportunity to make changes and not seek that higher authority. You don't have to make any changes. This is not a decision whether to go from one-way streets to two-way streets or any other decision. It just gives you the authority to make those decisions in the future. This is a map of the streets that we're talking about. State Route 900 is shown in yellow on this map, and State Route 515 is shown in kind of a pinkish red. The portions that we're talking about of State Route 900 are between the Sunset Underpass at 405, which I'm pointing the arrow here. Then as you work your way south and west, you go down Sunset Boulevard, and then all the way over to the Maple Valley Y, then to Bronson Way, across the Bronson Way Bridge, and then this is South 2nd Street. It goes all the way to Rainier, and then the couplet is the South 3rd Street couplet. So State Route 900, as you know, is both of those streets. It's the couplet. And then the connecting street at Mill Avenue South and the connecting street at Rainier Avenue. So that particular section of State Route 900 is what we're talking about being turned back to the city. Everything to the east of 405 would stay State Route 900, and everything to the west of Rainier Avenue would stay State Route 900. What happens to State Route 900 in between? It becomes coterminous with 405, so it gets moved over So State Route 900 and 405 are the same route all the way down to Rainier Avenue, and State Route 900 then becomes part of Rainier Avenue to the point where State Route 900 takes off to the west again. So the piece of State Route 900 that's no longer in the city will reside on I-405 and Rainier Avenue. That's where it will go. State Route 515, which is in the pink here, it comes up on Talbot Road, then turns to the northeast on Grady Way, and then heads north on Main Avenue South and terminates at South 2nd Street. So the state, that was not a specific request that we made, that portion be turned back to the city, but the state wanted that to be part of the package, and we saw no reason why it shouldn't be. So those are the streets that would become city streets if we move forward with this request and if the State Transportation Commission approves it. The advantages of the turnback agreement to the city, by the way, it doesn't cost us anything. We don't have to pay for the right-of-way. We don't have to pay a depreciated cost for the streets. It's a no-cost transfer, except that we have to take over maintenance, which I'll get to in a moment. No state oversight or approvals for downtown street conversion projects. That's all decided by you. Reduces project costs and time, so we don't have to do those time-consuming studies and hope that we get the nod yes for our proposals. Changes to reduce cut-through traffic on downtown streets will not require State Department of Transportation approval. Increased design flexibility, signage and channelization, and speed limits will be under city control. The disadvantage is the city will be responsible for the future overlays and maintenance of the pavement in the turnback areas. That's a fairly expensive thing. I don't want to undercut it or say that it's not an issue to think about. We currently maintain 711 approximately lane miles in the city. Our maintenance staff maintains that. This would be about 15 lane miles. It would add 15 lane miles to our inventory, and that's about a 2% increase in the amount of roads that we would have to maintain. The good news is the state is proposing, I'm going to go back a couple of slides here, back to the map. The state has South 2nd Street is deteriorating in places. I think everybody that drives it's noticed that it really needs to be ground and overlaid at this point. The state has it in their budget to grind and, well, they don't have it in their budget, but they have an authorized project in 2019 to grind and overlay South 2nd Street, South 3rd Street, the portion of Rainier that connects the two, the portion of Mill that connects the two, all the way to including Bronson Way, all the way to the Maple Valley Y. So they have a project that they were going to do in 2019. The estimated cost or budget for that project is somewhere in the $1.6 to $1.7 million range. We have a June 11th letter from the State Department of Transportation that if they do turn the street back, those streets back over to us, they would make that funding available to us for us to do that overlay so that we wouldn't be accepting a deteriorated street. We'd at least have the money to do the overlay and grinding the first time. It would be a one-time offer. Then from that point on, we would have to pay for the maintenance. But it's a pretty generous offer. We were looking at what about the rest. As many of you will recall, Sunset Boulevard did fairly recently get a grind and overlay. It was night work that the state did. I think it was back in 2010. So that pavement on Sunset Boulevard between the underpass and the Maple Valley Y, the pavement's in pretty good condition there because it was taken care of not that long ago. 515 has had several projects in the last decade done on it. The Main Avenue project, that big water line that we did that we basically replaced the street. There's patches of it that are going to take a little bit of attention, but it's not a major rehabilitation project. The state didn't have any projects to do in the next 5 years for maintenance of 515. So they weren't offering any funding in order to take it over. They didn't consider that it was in bad enough condition to have to do an overlay. We think that's probably reasonable. The streets that really need it are Second and Third, and they will pay us for that. So, but I did want to make sure that you are aware that part of the obligation is we take over the maintenance of the streets once the turnback happens. Whoops. So the city did request a couple of conditions from Department of Transportation. We've been in a series of discussions with our peers over at the state offices in Shoreline. Department of Transportation will retain the maintenance responsibility for the Bronson Avenue Bridge. That's important because that bridge does go over the river and is part of 900, and we don't want to take over the responsibility for maintaining that bridge until the bridge is replaced. That could be an expensive undertaking, and we want the state to retain the responsibility for maintaining that bridge. They've agreed to that in concept, so that will be part of the agreement that they continue to maintain it. And also the state provides funding for the already programmed overlay of State Route 900, which I just mentioned, and the metes and bounds of what that work would be. So our recommendation is that the council approve the mayor to sign the letter to the State Department of Transportation requesting turnback of State Route 900 and State Route 515 within the Central Business District as shown on that map. So, is there any questions?
Any questions from council?
I just have a comment. I think it's a wonderful idea. And having dealt with the state DOT for many years and trying to get some minor changes done, this is a big step forward. So I think it's a great idea.
And I have a question. Okay, so the only disadvantage that is listed is that the city's going to be responsible for future overlays and maintenance of the pavement. But then one of the advantages is it reduces project costs and time. So do you see that balancing out?
I think that we're definitely going to pick up some costs to do the maintenance. However, the PSRC project funding, and the next round of funding happens at the beginning of 2016, has a preservation pot, and we will be going for grant funds to help us with preserving those streets. Probably those would be the streets, if the state does approve the turnover, that we would make an application for funding for. So there's more funding available in grants for preservation and maintenance projects than there used to be. So we hope to make up some of that cost by securing grants in order to help pay for that. So we will be paying more. We'll be picking up extra costs by doing the maintenance. But what we'll be saving money is any project that reconfigures the street or changes something significantly. We don't have to obtain Department of Transportation approval, so we don't have to submit studies and we don't have to go through a big review process. And those studies can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that will be saved.
And if I understood you right, you said that the state would, they're either going to pay us or they're going to do second and third?
They'd actually pay us, which we actually would prefer. We could make
Right.
it part of our overlay program. We have somewhat different standards than the state. We grind deeper, we overlay thicker. We'd rather do it.
Right, great, good. Do we need to make that recommendation now or during council?
I was just talking to Jay about that. They're going to provide us with a committee report.
Yeah, so staff, do we need a committee report tonight, or if you want to bring this back, we'll bring a committee report back next week for the council to approve?
Well, we drafted a committee report, but of course, we're aware that often you want to take a week with these committee of the whole recommendations. I think we've got that much time if we wanted to bring it back.
You got one with you? I don't think council's seen it
Yeah,
yet.
I think we just do it tonight.
Copy of it.
Great.
I think we just do it tonight, Greg.
Okay. Okay.
So to clarify, we will make that recommendation during council?
Yes.
New business?
Old. Because
Old?
new business is reporting what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So it'd be old.
Okay,
Yeah. So anyone have any objections to me signing the committee report?
no.
All right. We're good.
Hey, thank you.
Any other questions for Greg before I let him go? All right, we are adjourned.
Great.